Danke, dass du da bist beim Live-Podcast von Creative Mornings Vienna.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's start. Today we talk about parallel, and I don't know how do you feel about it, but it has so many perspectives, no? And I'm very happy to discuss one of them with Regina Larko today. She's a podcaster, she's coaching people, and she's also a speaker. And I'm very happy that she's here today. Thank you very much for joining, Regina. And maybe you will tell us something about your podcast first so the people can connect. And then I will shoot my first question.
Hi, Sandra. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Well, also, can we give a shout out again to Leica and this beautiful, stunning location. I have the most amazing view for all of you listening now to the podcast. I see the city center of Vienna, absolutely gorgeous. I'm passionate about audio storytelling. For all of you that don't know me yet, I run 2 podcasts. One of them is called #Impact, a podcast about stuff that matters, soon also featuring the wonderful Creative Mornings team. And I talk currently in this ongoing season about community and community building from the angle of social impact. So everything I talk about in my podcast relates to how can we as individuals, but also collectively, make our world a bit better. And I want it to be hopeful and inspirational and inspiring because that's what I need as well. Yeah. And my other podcast talks about podcasting. So very meta, isn't it? Yeah. And I'm so excited to explore this topic with you and hear from all of you as well what parallel means to you, because I can imagine we all have so many stories that come up, and I'm so excited to explore that with you today, Sandra.
Yeah, thank you very much. You already mentioned it. In the end, we have a Q&A, so start to think about it. Yeah, Regina, the first question is very close to your world, and there's a study from Germany from 2024 that we are consuming media around 11 hours a day. And 9.5 hours of that is audio content, which means that your audience, hopefully and probably, has a parallel life while listening to your podcast. And how does it influence the way you create your stories and your podcast? That was the first question.
It's intriguing just even to think of that, right? Because as people are now here today in the room with us, you experience this like live. But for everyone who listens now to the podcast in the future, maybe 10 years, even 20 years from now, they can be all over the world, living all kinds of lives, and your voice is there with them. And this fascinates me about audio, and I also really try to grasp that with my audience from the very early days. So from the first moment when I started my own podcast, I celebrated my podcast's birthday. Yeah, I have an actual, birthday when the podcast first launched on iTunes, it was called back then, 8 years ago, Apple Podcasts today. And I invited my listeners to tell me, what are you doing while you're listening to this podcast? I would really like to know. I'm curious. And as a new podcaster, your audience, you start with your friends and family. So I encouraged all my friends that were actually listening to my podcast to send me pictures of what they're doing while they're listening to the podcast. And it was just wonderful to see, I got pictures of people cooking their food, and I got people in their training outfits running through the streets of Bangkok, where I thought, you can go run there, that's amazing. I just picturing this, where people are in the world. And when I create my content, I have that in mind, because I'm not just a creator of a podcast, I'm also a listener of the podcast. Yeah.
What are you doing when you listen to the podcast?
When I listen to podcasts, I mentioned this on another podcast before. Shout out to Gerulf Dösinger and Aesthetic Podcast. Where is he today? Why is he not here? Okay. I like one of my favorite activities is hanging clothes, hanging washing. What I do a lot because I have 3 little kids and it's madness at home often. But when I hang the clothes, I put my earphones in. Like they know that now. It's like mommy is in her podcast world, and we can just gonna leave her in peace now. And you know, if all the tasks that are usually maybe a bit boring, or I feel like I have to do this now, then it makes it meaningful because now I can either listen to some fun things that entertain me, or I can learn something new. I love it. And on the commute as well. Like I love taking my podcasts to the U-Bahn, metro. And then it's also so interesting to think about that when I was still living in Hong Kong, I would always do the MTR test for my podcast. MTR is the subway there. And it's quite noisy, like any metro, it's noisy. So I would take my own podcast and start listening to it, just to check, is the sound level good? Can I still listen to my podcast in the MTR? Because I want to make sure that my listeners that are also traveling, commuting in New York or wherever they are in the world, can actually hear without having to blast it on full, right? So,
talking about parallel lives, I think as older we get, we have more roles in our life. No? You said you're a mother, you're also a sister and a daughter and an employee. Maybe you have different roles. And how do you deal with conflicts? Because often they're not, they don't fit. How do you deal with that? Sorry, but it's very interesting for me. So
yeah, sometimes worse and sometimes better. There are certain days where these worlds are really colliding, where I feel very frustrated with these parallel roles that I'm holding. We all face that, right? We're not just one identity. We carry so many. And at some points, they are in conflict with each other. When I try to get ready to get to creative mornings, I was just mentioning it to Nicole before, right? At the when we grabbed our coffee, it's really hard at times to make that switch from getting my kids ready in the morning and then coming to an event and putting that head off, putting a hat on and off, to go from morning chaos to coming to, okay, I'm gonna sit down and have this meaningful conversation now, and I'm not gonna arrive here totally exhausted. So how I deal with it is really making space, even if it's just a few minutes, for me. How can I ground myself? So on the way here, I could have been here 10 minutes earlier, but I didn't come here. I took those 10 minutes and I sat down by myself around the corner, and I just sat, and I didn't listen to any podcast. I didn't think about, what do I still have to do? What's on my plate? I just sat there and looked around and noticed what I heard, and saw a lovely woman buying her bread at the bakery, and observed her having an interaction with this other woman in the bakery. That was lovely. And then I came here and I was like, okay, ready.
It's very interesting that you talk about different personalities or different identities, because I don't see it that way at all. Because now it's interesting, it's getting interesting, because I think that you're always one person, and you have different characteristics maybe, and I think maybe you can correct me. I think that changing the head, as you told us in the beginning, is something from the outside. It's not something you would naturally do, no? If you meet a friend, and you meet another friend, you would not stay in the corner and concentrate to be the other person expects you to be. So the experience I made is that the older I get, I don't give a shit about this. I don't know, I don't want to sound rude, but when I go to work, I'm still myself. And I know that there are expectations, when I was younger, I tried to fit in, and I don't think that it's very healthy. I don't know, it makes me crazy. It makes me crazy to think, how should I behave to fit in as a mother, as a friend, as a daughter, and at work. And I think it's one of the biggest healthy issues we have today. I don't know, I mean, you say this is the way you try to handle it, but for me it's quite the opposite.
But that's so interesting, and I don't need to correct you at all, because that's your experience, and that's wonderful that is, nourishing and meaningful to you. And I think that's also the journey of getting older. Isn't it beautiful as well? Yeah, we're getting wiser with every year, and we handle situations in different ways, and we learn what works for us, because everyone is different, and what works for you might not for me. But I absolutely agree with what you say, that it's not about that I'm a different person. Like I'm still me, right? But I'm definitely, I don't know how to say, I'm maybe a bit more, I almost feel like I'm sometimes also a bit more me when I'm just in my professional setting, yeah? Because now I'm just doing something for me and for my passion. No one else needs anything from me in this moment, yeah? Not my family, my phone is off, no one can reach me, yeah? I'm just in the moment, present, without having anyone else around me. I think that's more the switch that where I feel the collision sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. This is about the question, who are you when nobody's watching?
Exactly. Isn't that an intriguing question? Can we all just ask ourselves that for a moment? I love that one. Who are you when no one's watching? Who are you when no one's watching? Can I just turn it around? I'm a podcast host, so I gotta turn it around. Sandra, who are you when no one's watching?
I'm the same.
Yeah?
Yeah, no surprises.
Wow. For me, no, I think there is a part of me that I am when no one's watching. And that part for me is a much more quiet version of myself, a much more reflective, and maybe also a bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? People know me as quite bubbly, happy, big energy, and I am all that. Like, I am that kind of person. I'm not just making this up because I'm sitting here on stage. If you have a coffee with me, outside, downstairs, yeah, you'll know I am like that. But I think that more calmer version of me that I also am, I think only my closest friends and my closest family members know that person. And then even going deeper, I think there's even a part of me that I really keep safe for myself, that actually no one knows. That I'm, I don't know, maybe even a bit sad sometimes, where I feel like what you said about the society, what they expect, right? Who are you supposed to be as an entrepreneur, as a mom, as a podcaster? But then if you put all these layers off and you get to know yourself, what's really inside, I think, I don't know, maybe we all have that little piece in us that's always there, parallel, but not that also, I'm starting rambling because it's always so fascinating to even have these questions and think about that for yourself. And as I'm talking, I'm all of a sudden making more sense for myself. That maybe that's the part, those layers, that I try to get to know that part of me. Yeah, like all these layers. I think I'll get there eventually. I don't think I have really found it yet for myself.
It's quite interesting because some speaks of parallel when it comes to the inside and the outside view of a human, and you talk about it, the feelings that you have inside and the stuff you show outside. It's parallel and it can also correlate. And I want to bring another aspect. I'm a feminist, so you don't need to wonder about the next thing. Women or girls in general are the better diplomats because we're raised to keep everything in balance. We're looking for harmony, and it's something very, very all over the world in every culture. Something it's expected from especially women to keep this harmony and the status quo, and something which nobody likes are angry women. And often there's a big conflict about, you're used to have the balance and it's the opposite that you feel inside. So seeing angry women in public, it's very unusual. So I want to ask you first, how do you deal with anger in general, and do you show it, and why not? And if you don't...
I can get so angry, Sandra. You should just ask my kids. They see it pretty much every day. I feel I learn a lot, what triggers you, at home or with my kids. It teaches me a lot as well, because you're right. When what you're sharing there, how we are raised to be good girls and fit in and not be loud. And I was raised in that way too, right? To just, as encouraging as my family always was, but I see that now when my family is around my kids, and my kids have their big emotions, and I have 2 girls and a boy, and I see how they treat them differently, how the girls are supposed to be like, come on, let your brother have that, let him have the tantrum. He is also the smallest one, so there's another layer to it, but I see it, and I'm trying to be very mindful of encouraging my girls to also be angry when they want to be angry. And I'm a good role model at that at home. But when it comes to being, more outspoken also on my channels, I really want to say that I often then don't dare, right? I don't dare. I'm still exploring that. Even though I'm pissed, and even though I feel frustrated at times, I'm finding my angle to give a platform then also to women I look up to who are brave also in a way to speak up and out. And I have to just give a shout out to one of my really early guests, Sonali Figueras. She is one of my mega role models when it comes to speaking up, speaking out, on feminist topics, but also on climate change and all the change that she creates with her platform. Find her on LinkedIn. She's wonderful. And I had her in my podcast many years back. And at the end of my show, I always ask my guests to maybe share one more thing that they wanted to say. What could we all do to make the world an even better place, is my closing question. And I get goosebumps just thinking of it. She stood up with her voice and made such a passionate call to action in a voice that was angry as well, how we should support the women in our lives and how we should just give them space and see them and hear them, and don't make them smaller, and don't tell them to be good. And I get goosebumps still to even think of that, because I try to surround myself also with people on my platform that inspire me and that I want to learn from.
Do you think that some way to make things better or to encourage more people is to don't live this parallel lives or the parallel rules you have?
Tell me more about that.
I don't know, I think because we're quite opposite handling this. I think that the more authentic we are and the more we don't fit ourselves in the roles somebody expects to us, we're changing a little bit more the world instead of fitting in. I always more believe in revolution instead of the diplomatic process. And this is also because of parallel. I believe that less parallel I am, more power I have about myself and about my environment, of course. What do you think?
I think we need both. I think we need the revolutionary people, and we also need the diplomats. We need it all. Yeah, I don't think any way is the only right way to go about it. And I think you also are allowed to, and you should, listen closely also to what you bring to the table and what your talents are and what feels right for you. And I think there's power in that, because I think there is a lot of power in diplomacy. There is a lot of power in listening, even just having that conversation, also hearing other points of views and seeing it from other ways that you haven't maybe even thought of it. And I feel really inspired also by people that I get to work with and support on their podcasting journey. And I want to give a shout out to Veslemø Klavenes Berge. She is based in Norway, and she was one of the first people that I supported bring her podcast to life. And she has now been running this podcast for a couple of years. And she just recently in our community call shared about her challenge that she feels in this world that's so polarized, where she has the feeling there's so much also misunderstanding, and she wants to challenge herself to invite people on her show that don't have the same view, that are maybe even totally opposite to what she would say about climate change or about social justice or about all kinds of topics. And that she even asks herself these questions, and that she is brave enough to say, I want to have these difficult conversations, but in a way that is also gentle, I almost want to say, with opening a room for conversation, but still guiding it. I think that's important too. Just as important what you do when you say you have that urge and that passion and the capacity and the courage to do it in your way that is, I don't want to say loud and silent, that I don't want to label it that way. But you know what I mean?
It is loud, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.